song?
Yeah.
Okay.
I only ever hear, well, I guess it's like the speed. I can't adjust this because I don't know when the thing went. Anywho, hello and welcome to the Music Lens podcast with me, Alex Allegra.
And Katie Fee,
Yes.
coming to you pre-snowpocalypse.
Pre-snowstorm here in Nashville. We're trying to get ahead of it.
We'll see. Hopefully it'll be over by the time this is out, since
Yes.
it will come out Wednesday. They're saying we could be losing power and all that fun stuff, so...
Yeah, it went from, oh my God, there's going to be a shit ton of snow to, oh my gosh, it's not the snow, but now it's ice to now it's, and I went to the grocery store before we recorded here, and yeah, no, it was a mess. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but the lines were ridiculous. Although I don't know if it's just like people only wanted to go to certain line or like they weren't looking, but like I don't know if I just got insanely lucky because I went to the grocery store and I mean, there was a lot of people and they were everywhere and people were and I was like, oh my God, this is too much. I can't deal with this after the week that I've had and all this stuff. I found that there was, at the self-checkout, there was nobody there. So I was like, why are we not using this? And so I went there and I hopped right in. I was like, okay. And so I'm like, I don't know if it's just like people just had a lot of cash and like
Maybe
they all, or they just weren't like noticing because it was like all the outside lines had like lines wrapped around and then there was just nobody in the middle. So I was like, do you guys just not see that the middle's open? So I was like, I'm just gonna go. So I did that, and then the gas pumps were also all full and I had to wait, and somebody tried to like swerve in as I was like trying to maneuver into one, and like I had obviously been there first and I almost was so upset, and then they just left. I was like, oh, I don't have to fight? Okay, yay. And I was like, I don't know if I'm just like getting like real lucky and it's just like, okay, like didn't have to fight for a parking spot, got out really easily. And I'm like, I just don't know if people are so like, oh my God, that like they're not paying attention really. And I just know how to pay attention, A, and B, how to deal with snow, that like this is like, okay. And honestly, for the most part, like we didn't really need a lot of things. We just needed like a couple, and I just didn't like, it was like our weekly grocery list kind of stuff that I just have been putting off because I was trying to go through some stuff that we've had in the house and like stuff that would just get us through to like next week. Like we didn't really like, we weren't dying for things, but I was like, let's just like stock up on like LaCroix and like some meats and stuff like that. The only thing I could not get was meat because I only eat chicken and turkey. And they had no chicken and no turkey anywhere. Okay. So I was like, okay. And they had a bunch of ground beef and that was it. And I was like, I don't eat you, so I cannot eat you. But I've never seen the grocery store so empty, which honestly, all the fruits and veggies were like gone.
Bread and milk were like scarce, but I did get a loaf and I did get a gallon half gallon.
I got milk, no problem. The lactose-free section apparently is not the acquired milk, but that's why I grabbed
3 left. I'm like,
I grabbed my lactose-free milk. They had plenty of butter and eggs, and I was surprised about that.
Eggs were like gone, but so I went Monday just like regular shopping and was like, just stock up. We're not going back for a month. Then I had to go back yesterday because Sam's like, hey, can you stop and get some lighters on your way home just in case we need them or something? Like we could start a fire. And I was like, what? We're gonna go outside and start a fire? Like it's gonna be warmer to just stay in the house. But my dad pointed out maybe for like cooking purposes if we don't have power. So I guess that could be a thing. But it's like, I'll get milk and bread just to have a couple more things, I guess, while I was there. So yeah. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it's not as bad, and hopefully I think they just want us to prepare, obviously,
oh my gosh,
in case it is
you know
worse,
what?
But
I don't even need my stove. If the power goes out, like, and I don't have a stove and all that stuff, I can still make soups and stuff because I have a little indoor fire pit and I can just cook on top of that.
There you go. Okay.
Look at that. Okay. Anywho.
Yeah.
I'm just like hopeful. I don't really care about the snow. I just like if we can like get out of work a couple days because people like shut down so much here.
I gotta pay bills.
But I'm just like, I don't think anything's really gonna happen. So I'm like, it's just gonna ruin our weekend.
It kind of, well, because it keeps pushing a little bit. So it was supposed to start tonight and now it's like Saturday, but like it probably won't get bad till Saturday night into Sunday. And then the temperatures aren't going up. So it's going to stay at least till Tuesday, if not later. And so I don't know if it'll be okay to go to work Monday or not, but I need money. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I spent $1,200 on my car in 7 days. Yeah. What do we have in store?
We have quite the episode for you today.
It's the episode.
Little inside joke. I know. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed our first special guest of the new year. It's not going to be like we're taking that over. We're still very much going to be like the two of us, our podcast. Trying not to make it super like interviewee with like, oh, an artist comes and because like there's a lot of podcasts like that out there,
Right.
and like, not that I don't enjoy that stuff. Obviously, I enjoy being on podcasts like that. So I'm not trying to like discredit and like not give opportunities to new people to come on. It's just it's gonna be different. Like I like to like dig a little deeper than just like, oh my gosh, who are you? Great. Like, that's what I like about like the Call Her Daddy episodes, are like, it's not anymore. Like when she invited people onto the show, she made it a point to like have these deeper conversations with them and just be open and honest, instead of like, okay, so this is who I have and this is what they have coming up and this is this and this is that, and it's very interview and scripted and blah 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 blah. So like I still want to like incorporate just like a different feel for the more interviewee type episodes.
Yeah.
And we have a really awesome guest coming up for the next month. And so to give you just a little sprinkle of taste, to maybe think about what we might bring on next, who we might bring on.
What?
I thought we could go through the history of some music producers. And I think it's kind of been like touched on with like certain things when we did like history of like California and stuff like that. Obviously some like people come up and stuff, but there is no like one person that really defined like the first who the first music producer officially was, but there was definitely a couple pioneers in the field. So let's talk about music producers.
Okay.
People who we are not.
We dabble.
We try to be, but we are
dabble.
not. Also, I am in the studio right now too, which is also this kind of connects with that too. And I am just like, every time I get a new mix of my song, I'm like, oh my god, I need to show the world like this. Like this is truly, this music that I am about to release is stuff that I've been either sitting on for a while, have in my collection purposefully with like such intent, and like is truly like where I have always wanted to be musically, that I am so I will listen to it 100 times just because like I am so in love with these songs. Like these are purely songs that I just think are so mature, so like me, and so much like just different, and I'm so excited to be putting them out. So I want to release a bunch this year, but realistically it will probably be less than I would like to be. So I'm not putting any expectations into the world, only from an aspect of I've done that in the past, and it's just then I feel like I don't do anything in a year, and I get disappointed with myself, and I frustrate myself, and I'm like, that's not the point of this. The point of doing this is that I'm putting it out because A, it needs to be out there because my soul needs it to be out there. B, I really want you guys to hear it. And C, I'm trying to make meaningful connections with my music, and I think that this finally does that. And I'm so excited. Like I'll play it for you after, because you wrote the song with us. But it's so good.
Yeah. I've been teasing my next thing on TikTok, but I haven't put it anywhere else because I'm like, we're just gonna do the thing where you just like keep putting the unreleased song out, but it finally has a release date. I just got to get all the other things together in order to announce. So there's that fun stuff.
Okay, so Joe Meek. By the age of 10, he had written and produced theatrical performances by and for the children in his village, and had built a crystal radio set, a microphone, and a tube amplifier. At age 14, he expanded his setup to work dances as a mobile DJ, and at 24, he built a disc cutter that he used to cut his first records, a library of sound effects he had recorded on a homemade tape machine. Meek worked repairing radios, television, and other electrical devices before becoming a professional audio engineer. Although frequently characterized as a music industry outsider, Meek actually began his professional recording career as an employee at IBC, the largest and most advanced studio in London. British engineers at the time were essentially scientists that wore white lab coats and faithfully executed producers developed to record sounds with the greatest possible fidelity. While producers sporting suits made all of the creative decisions, despite rarely understanding anything about the recording technology. That a mere engineer might offer creative suggestions, much less insist upon them being carried out, was unimaginable. Meek almost single-handedly led the revolution that ultimately toppled that regime. Between 1955 and 1957, Meek engineered dozens of hit records for major pop and jazz artists, often adding unique sonic touches that distinguished them from the recordings of their peers. To realize the sounds he heard in his head, Meek tweaked tape machines and pushed limiters to the max to get the hottest possible levels on tape, used compressors to create pumping and breathing effects, placed microphones close to and sometimes inside sources rather than in the officially prescribed positions, experimented with using the wrong types of microphones, and sometimes even went so far as to intentionally overload preamp inputs. Meek was also a big fan of acoustic echo chambers and tape delay, and in 1957 he built his mysterious black box spring reverb unit out of a broken heater to get even more ambient feels, several years before the development of the Acoutronics spring reverb unit. Do you know anything?
No.
It also likely that Meek was one of the first engineers to direct input the electric bass. So a DI is what?
Yeah.
Direct inject. Oh my gosh, is what that stands for. I thought it was direct input, but I guess it's direct inject.
I thought input, but I don't know.
The implement.
No one ever thought to do that before.
For electric basses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess not.
But I guess you can plug it into an amp still and then have the mic with the amp. So I guess that I was like, they don't make much sound without some sort of electricity. It's an electric bass.
The implementation of these techniques resulted in a major paradigm shift that has now become almost universal. British pop recordings made in the 1950s incorporated a lot of room sounds. Microphones were typically placed well away from sources, and separation was achieved by keeping the musicians far apart from each other. Meek close mic'd sources, largely eliminating the room sound, and then used compressors and limiters to tighten up those sounds and give them more punch. So basically, he went from taking these like big sound recordings that you could hear every echo and off the wall and every little noise, and kind of the reason, if you go back and listen to a lot of like old big bands and like concerts and stuff, like you're getting a lot more sounds, like old jazz records and like old like big like band type records, you're getting a lot more room sounds. So he figured out the placements of like microphones and like used different techniques to like lessen that sound and separated people instead of all of them being like on one mic and stuff like that, and then compressed it so that levels were a lot more even instead of having a lot of those like big jarring, like, oh, that part's really loud and that part's really soft, and oh my god, like all these big like differences.
I just think of like the visual of Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Three all around one microphone at Sun Records, and it's like one mic for three people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Or four. Yeah. Yeah, he's not part of the three. It's eventually three. It becomes the Tennessee Two. Anyways, we're not doing a Johnny Cash history.
To compensate for the lost ambient sounds and sometimes to create unnatural ambient effects, Meek would send entire mixes to an echo chamber. He might also add tape delay using a 3-head reel-to-reel recorder, and it is quite possible that he was the first person in England to delay signals before routing them to an echo chamber, thus inventing pre-delay, which we talked about delays and echoes and all of that stuff in our recording sound episode as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of technical stuff in there. It's a lot.
It's that techie stuff.
While many producers bristled at what they perceived as Meek's challenges to their authority because so many of his recordings became hits, other producers refused to work with anyone else. For the same reason, Meek became the engineer of choice for numerous artists and record companies. So, yeah, he was an engineer that took a hold of things, and yeah, everyone's important in those, and producers have learned to do a lot more than just stand there and say, this is the direction that we're going in. I feel like that's more managers now. Like, they don't really necessarily need to know how everything works in the studio, and they take kind of, unless like the artist, but the artist also kind of has to know what's going on. So, trad jazz trumpeter Humphrey Littleton's Bad Penny Blues is one of the best known early examples of the way Meek's approach changed the character of recordings for the better. The song was built around a boogie-woogie piano bass line and pushed along by a snare drum played with brushes. Meek compressed all the instruments far beyond what was usual for jazz recordings, but he also made the brushes prominent in the mix and intentionally distorted the piano bass line. While at IBC, Meek also experimented with sound recording using 2 recorders, which he would work what they called composites, which they made track by track by track, said the late engineer and producer Adrian Courage, who worked with Meek at the time. They were doing a multi-track recording using a composite method that nobody else was using in London or in Europe, or even possibly America. Also quotes, but I'm paraphrasing. Despite those many successes, Meek eventually grew tired of the confines and often adversarial environment of IBC and left in September of 1957. A few months later, he held Preston found Lansome Studio, and before long, somebody else joined them. Meek designed a 12-channel mono tube mixer with EQ on every channel, a luxury at the time, which is very common to see today, honestly. Which he had custom built. Meek also installed some EMI TR-50 and TR-51 recorders and oversaw all the studio's technical arrangements. Again, very techie terms.
All over my head.
Yeah. The engineers at IBC called Lansdowne the House of Shattering Glass because of its clarity of sound, and in 1959 became one of London's first stereo studios. Meek remained there until November of 1959. He also built 2 more of his fabled black boxes while at Lansdowne. One was a Pultec style equalizer, described by one of its owners as probably the warmest, smoothest, most transparent equalizer ever made. Another was a Levine style compressor / limiter.
Equalizer would be EQ, just for if that helps people.
Yes. Meek left both units at Lansdowne, where he departed. He took his 3rd black box, the Spring Reverb, with him. Additionally, he appears to have invented tape flanges. Meek appears to have invented tape flanging during the same time, an effect usually presumed to have been developed in the 1960s. But according to Meek, it was done in 1957. During his years at Lansdowne, Meek also made impressive recordings at his tiny Ardrella Gardens flats, most notably his outer space music fantasy called I Hear a New World, which was a full-length album recorded in stereo. How Meek managed to work in stereo remains a mystery, as nobody who was there recalls seeing any studio equipment. The largely neglected recording is interesting because it provides fascinating insights into how an early audio inventor working at the dawn of commercial stereo dealt with issues such as phase relationships, imaging, and a juxtaposition of dry and processed sounds. Beyond that, Meek's use of signal processing, tape manipulation, and tape loops puts the record in a class by itself. Meek is best known for his recordings he made in the 1960s, which were recorded in his legendary home studio located on the 3rd floor above a leather shop in London at 304 Holloway Road. The 11 by 12 control room had no direct view of the roughly 18 by 14 foot recording area down the hall, and Meek had to run back and forth between the two rooms to communicate with the musicians. Also, while the sound of an echo chamber can be heard clearly on nearly every recording made at 304 Holloway Road, and Meek claimed to have one, he very likely used the bathroom for that purpose.
Nice.
So an echo chamber is like, did we have one at Belmont? Or was that the opposite, where it was like deprived?
I think it was the opposite.
Where it deprived all sounds?
I think I might have gotten to go in there for whatever the intro class was freshman year. I think we went in there briefly. But I think it's the opposite, where everything is just like
sucked out, yeah. So that was Joe Meek. It's so weird to like say all those things and like, oh, that's such normal standard things today, and it's like, no, he had to like create them.
Pioneered all that.
The second person is Samuel Cornelius Phillips, or Sam Phillips, who was an American disc jockey, songwriter, and producer, the founder of Sun Records and Sun Studio in Memphis, Tennessee, where he produced recordings by Elvis, Roy Robinson, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, and Howlin' Wolf. He also played a major role in the development of rock and roll during the 1950s, launching the career of Elvis Presley. In 1969, he sold Sun to Shelby Singleton. Which is just a random little fact at the end. He was born...
I think that was a CMT show. Sun Records. Did you ever watch the show?
Oh, no. Is that what that's about? It got canceled
after a season, and it was like, I think the like ending like cliffhanger to tie to the next season was him selling or something like that. Or no. I think it was that they lost Elvis as a client or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was a good show, but it did not continue, unfortunately.
Well, let's dive into him just a little bit. He was born January 5th, 1923 in Florence, Alabama. He was born on a 200-acre farm to Madge Ella and Charles Tucker Phillips. As a child, he picked cotton in the fields with his parents alongside black laborers, which opened him up to the experience of hearing black laborers singing in the field, which left a big impression on him. Traveling through Memphis with his family in 1939 on the way to see a preacher in Dallas, he slipped off to look at Beale Street, which, if you haven't been to Memphis, it is a huge street that is like known for music and jazz and blues and has all these like clubs and stuff. And I actually got to see it. It is busy at night. Even still to this day, there's a lot that happens on that street. And I just went to my hotel room, so...
Is it at all similar to Broadway? Or
yes, that's the feel that it gets, but I didn't go down and look what it...
I think Beale Street, and then I think, I don't know if there's a specific street, but like the French Quarter in New Orleans for like
but that's
where a bunch of music is and stuff.
Yeah, but they have a lot more going on.
But they have other things going on too, yeah. But yeah, haven't been to either place.
Phillips conducted the school's band while he was at Coffee High School in Florence. But he had ambitions of becoming a criminal defense attorney. In 1941, his father died during the Great Depression, and they became bankrupt, forcing him to leave high school and having to take care of his mother and his aunt. To support the family, he worked in a grocery store and a funeral parlor. At 19, he met Rebecca Becky Burns, his future wife, while they were both working at WLAY radio station in Sheffield, Alabama. He was an announcer, and she was still in high school and had a radio segment with her sister called The Kitchen Sisters, where they played music and sang. Okay.
I would think, they're gonna talk about food.
You would think, but no. They were just like madly in love with each other. It says in like some articles and interviews that he fell in love with her voice before they even met. In the 1940s, Philip worked as a DJ and radio engineer for the station WLAY AM in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And according to Phillips, the station's open format of broadcast music by black and white musicians alike would later inspire his work in Memphis. Beginning in 1945, he worked for 4 years as an announcer and sound engineer for the radio station WREC in Memphis. In 1950, Phillips opened the Memphis Recording Service at 706 Union Avenue in Memphis. He He let amateurs record, which drew performers such as B.B. King, Junior Parker, and Howlin' Wolf, who made their first recordings there. Phillips then sold the recordings to larger labels to distribute them. Phillips recorded what the music historian Peter Garland considered the first rock and roll record, Rocket 88 by Jackie Preston and his Delta Cats. Oh my God. A band led by the 19-year-old Ike Turner, who also wrote the song. The recording was released in 1951 by Chess Records in Chicago. From 1950 to 1954, Phillips recorded music by James Cotton, Rufus Thomas, Roscoe Gordon, Little Milton, Bobby Blue Bland, The Prisonaries, and others. It's a tongue twister. Bobby Blue Bland.
BBB.
Blue Blazer Black.
No. That's two Friends references. One episode.
What was the first one?
Phalange.
Oh, yeah. But that's the Memphis recording service also served as the studio for Phillips' own label, Sun Record Company, which he launched in 1952. Sun Records produced more rock and roll records than any other record label of its time during its 16-year run, producing 226 singles. Phillips recorded different styles of music, but he was always interested in the blues. The blues, it got people, black and white, to think about life. How difficult, yes, but also how good it can be. They would sing about it, they would pray about it, they would preach about it. This is how they relived the burden of what existed day in and day out. In addition to musical performances in his early career, Phillips recorded events such as weddings and funerals, selling the recordings. So also during this time, I think it's really crucial to like having a record company behind you was such a different process than it is now. Like now people just go into the studio and they record and like you want people in your corner backing you up, obviously, because like you do get opportunities from that if they're connected well and, you know, take an interest in you. But so many people nowadays just want to record and like if you have money, they'll record you and like don't make you feel as like vested in your career, right, even though sometimes they'll tell you that they're vested in their career and then they aren't. And so while it is nice to have a really good development and like connection with producers, it's also just a very different system than it was back then, whereas like these people could really make or break you if you were in their world and stuff. And like you see it today, obviously, and like people like Chappell Rowan who both produced Olivia Rodrigo and her stuff, and he got her onto Olivia's tour and things of that nature. But again, a lot of it also comes down to money more or less nowadays. So
yeah, just because someone's like charging a lot of money to produce because they have certain like accolades or like things on their resume that, oh, I worked with so and so, doesn't mean that they're gonna necessarily help you get your music any farther than just getting it produced. And then it's like, okay, we're done, you paid me, I'm done with it, and moving on to the next person.
So Phillips and Elvis Presley opened a new form of music. Phillips said of Presley, Elvis cut a ballad, which was just excellent. I could tell you both Elvis and Roy Orbison could tear a ballad to pieces, but I said to myself, you can't do that, Sam. If I had released a ballad, I don't think you would have ever heard of Elvis Presley. Phillips stated of his goals, everyone knew that I was just a struggling cat down here trying to develop new and different artists and get some freedom in music and tap some resources and people that weren't being tapped. He didn't care about mistakes. He cared about that feel. Phillips met Presley through the mediation of his long-term collaborator at the Memphis recording service, Marion Keisker, who was already a well-known Memphis radio personality. On July 18th, 1953, the 18-year-old Presley dropped into the studio to record. Keisker thought she heard some talent in the young truck driver's voice, and so she turned on the tape recorder. Later, she played it for Phillips, who gradually, with her encouragement, warmed to the idea of recording Elvis. Presley, who's recorded his version of Arthur Big Boy Crudups, That's All Right, at Phillips' studio, became highly successful, first in Memphis, then throughout the southern United States. Obviously, we know Elvis's history, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. He brought the song he brought Elvis's songs to disc jockeys at WHBQ 560 to play in his Red Hot and Blue program for the first 6 months. The flip side, Blue Moon of Kentucky, Presley's upbeat version of a Bill Monroe bluegrass song, was slightly more popular than That's All Right Mama. While still not known outside the South, Presley's singles and regional success became a drawing card for Sun Records. As singing hopefuls soon arrived from all over the region, singers such as Sonny Burgess, My Bucket's Got a Hole in It, Charlie Rich, Junior Parker, and Billy Lee Riley recorded for Sun with some success, and others such as Jerry Lee Lewis, B.B. King, Johnny Cash, again, Roy Orbison became stars. Phillips' pivotal role in the early rock days was exemplified by a celebrated jam session on December 4th, 1956, with what became known as the $1 Million Quartet. Jerry Lee Lewis was playing piano for Carl Perkins' recording session at Phillips' studio. When Elvis Presley walked in unexpectedly, Johnny Cash was called into the studio by Phillips, leading to an impromptu session featuring the four musicians. Phillips challenged the four to achieve gold record sales, offering a free Cadillac to the first, which was Carl Perkins who won.
I have that picture.
Oh, really? The contest is commemorated in a song by the truck drivers. Drive-by truckers. Jesus, I can't read. In the 1960s, Phillips rarely recorded. He built a satellite studio and opened radio stations, but the studio declined. He sold Sun Records to Shelby Singleton in 1969. And in 1977, Sam's son, Knox, and Jerry were working with John Prime at the Phillips recording studio when Sam Phillips joined them to oversee recordings that were eventually included on the album Pink Cadillac. Sam Phillips, everybody. So yeah, those are two early foundations of people in the producing industry. Just to give you a little taste of what's to come. Yes. Maybe it will connect. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'm being cryptic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope you learned something, though. I hope that was interesting a little bit. I thoroughly enjoyed the Sun Records Sam Phillips story. I didn't know anything about that, so
I feel like I've heard and gathered bits and pieces, like I said, with the TV show, and then like I think there's probably a little bit of it in the Elvis movie and Walk the Line, which is the Johnny Cash movie, and then just like reading. Can't remember the actual name of the book, but there's a Johnny Cash biography that I've read, so I feel like bits and pieces from different sources. I've heard things before, but yeah.
Let us know what you guys think. Have you gone on because they have well, I guess we wouldn't know because what else is the other? Oh, that's RCA, the one that's connected to like, because there's other studios that like Elvis recorded here, right?
Is there's like a thing at Country Music Hall of Fame where you can go to that, and they have like a shuttle that takes people over there to tour that and everything. But yeah, there's some sort of Sun Records thing. At least there was when we were in Belmont. There's a Sun Records in Nashville still.
Yeah, I thought so.
Because I know I applied for some type of internship with them, but obviously never got it. But
it was like attached to like that studio, I feel like, because of all the Elvis connections and stuff like that. So So have you done that? Have you come to Nashville? Have you done that? Is there a tour in Memphis of the original building? I honestly don't know. So.
I'm not sure, but if you know anything about it, we'd like to hear about it. You can send that to the Music Lens Podcast at gmail.com or comment on our YouTube video or on our socials. Our socials are at the Music Lens Podcast. You can follow Alex at Alex Allegra Music and keep an eye out for when she's going to be releasing the stuff she's been doing in the studio. And same for me. Follow me at Katie Fee Music on all the things. Go to my TikTok and hear the chorus of the song I've been teasing. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Grammys. So Grammys are February 1st. I'm just going to say this so we have it on there. Okay. We want to do our traditional, it'll be a tradition. This will be our third time doing a Grammys episode. But it will be the week after, like the second week of February, because there's no way we would have time to do it between the 1st and that Wednesday. Yeah. So just a heads up, we are going to do that. So if there's anything specific you want us to talk about, let us know. But yeah, anyways, we will see you next time.
Bye.